Inside the loud house was all in eerie quiet. Not a single sound could be made. The crickets were either absent or dead. Worst of all, nighttime had made it so dark that you could only see anything but the occasional flash of lightning from the storm raging outside. The only audible sound was that tapping of rain hitting the roof. However, that didn't mean nothing was stirring from the abode. If one to pay attention closely, they could hear Panic's breathing coming from the inside of the kitchen cabinets. Lincoln was clutching his bun tightly, and his whole body was shaking out of fear, but that was because he was completely soaked. He has done it again. He made his sisters angry at him for his selfish desires, and this time he made it very clear that they weren't going to forgive him. Tired of feeling overshadowed by his sisters, all he wanted to do was put any kind of award in the trophy case to show that he liked to his siblings, to get some kind of recognition in the world. It was no surprising that Lynn had sports trophies, Luna had awards in music business, Lisa's Nobel Prize, Lola's pageant wins, Lori actually had a few awards that she had gotten from past spelling bees, and even Leni got a certificate at one point for designing such an amazing fabric that was baffled the judges. All of his sisters got an award in every form. Even Lily did a few times, at which Lincoln is still wondering, how could a baby earn an award? But for him, he had literally had nothing to show for it. As such as he fought to earn one by any means, which resulted in a few embarrassing moments. However, one of the news of a video contest that came up in his school, the middle child saw this as a ticket to his stardom. Unfortunately for Lincoln, people found his Amsterdam of all things to be more interesting than his cool daredevil stunt, which led him going into comedy instead thanks to Luann. Sadly, she didn't mention that he wouldn't post embarrassing moments of his siblings without their consent. Just for all of his school-bound sisters to become outcasts as a result, and the worst part, Lincoln still didn't win anything. Lily was the only one who was spared from this turmoil, as she was just an infant. The argument earlier was clear as day in his head. I literally can't believe you Lincoln. This is what you wanted? Lori shouted, showing him the kinds of remarks that he got on his video. The boy quickly shook his head. No, I didn't mean... Didn't mean what? To win? To bring us down to your level? That was such a lie, Luna shouted. I bet he was going to say, I didn't mean to humiliate you. I just want to win that stupid trophy and font. Yeah, right, Lynn said in a snarky tone. But Luann said if I tried comedy, then I might have a chance. Also, you think posting our embarrassing moments is funny? Even I wouldn't stoop down that low, the comedian barked. Look, girls, I'm really sorry. Just give me a chance to... Lincoln started. No, Lincoln, you have no chances. Nothing you say will convince us otherwise. What you did was an act of Confucius, Lisa stated. Like, I have no brother anymore, Leni said, turning aloof. But, Lincoln's voice was barely above whisper. Don't you get it, you Philistine? We hate you, Lola shouted, making the ashen-hair boy cringe. And you're going to pay. Pay? Was all he was going to get out. At this point, all the lights went out due to the storm intensifying. When Lincoln could finally see a new feet in front of him, his 9 sisters obnoxiously disappeared. He didn't know what they meant when Lola said he was going to pay, but it was just like a genius to know anything but good. Cautiously and quietly running up the stairs, Lincoln thought he'd be best to hide out in his room. He successfully managed to reach it before slamming the door shut. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Thankfully, none of his sisters were there. Lincoln sat on his bed, thinking about what he just got himself into. Looking over, Bun lay peacefully on the pillow. The boy picked it up, staring in his sadness. I've really messed up this time, huh? The girls wouldn't even let me make up for my mistakes. He gripped the plush tighter in anger for a moment, tears creeping out of his eyes. He slammed his fist on the door on his bed. Dang it, why do I have to be so stupid? Before Lincoln could berate himself any further, his bed began to make a ticking sound. Wondering what it was, he peered under the furniture, and a piece he had found was his answer, a combination of chemicals linked timer. Why is this under my bed? Could it be? The boy's eyes went wide as the answer came to him within a few seconds. He also had a few seconds before the countdown ended. With Bun Bun still in his hands, he gripped the door before slamming it shut. Said door was soon blown off its hinges, resulting in an explosion, throwing Lincoln to the floor. The middle child groaned in pain of what remained in the room. Nothing but ashes and a few flames danced of what used to be his dresser. Lincoln, then of course, hers. He blinked twice. That could have killed you? A voice started. Looking forward, the dim lights and the fire of the room provided. Lincoln could see frantic tears, leers of all of his sisters. Each of them had looks that say they were going to have fun time whatever came next. If that was what you're going to say, then that's your correct former male sibling. Sadly, it seems your cunning has yet saved your life in hide, Lisa pointed out, an evil glare etched on her face. When I mean you were going to pay, I meant... Lola started before being interrupted by Lynn. With your blood! The athlete was now riding on her dirt bike with mace in her hands. Lincoln's pupils shrank as his sister came at him, his stuffed bonbon in his pocket before leaping over his 13-year-old sibling, making her crash into the wall. Lisa threw another combination of chemicals that were extremely volatile, detonating behind the poor boy, making his shirt catch on fire momentarily. Lola threw on one of her stuffed animals at him. The little bear suddenly came to life, mid-fight latched onto his face, pounding on it mercilessly. Lincoln screamed out even through the hits didn't hit as much due to it being a plush toy. Grabbing the bear, he saw Luna had one of her speakers set up, was about to play a chord. Thinking quick, Lincoln grabbed the bear and threw it at her. This caused the toy to hit the musician now, distracting her long enough, and the boy to slip past. The 15-year-old finally did her strum a guitar on accident, and Lincoln gulped as he saw a wave that produced a sizable hole in the wall. Lincoln saw he was close to the stairs now. If he could get to the lower levels of the house, he could find a decent spot to hide in. Sadly, he never got that chance as he spotted Lucy's bats perched on the ceiling. All Lucy had to do was utter a few words to get him and give the chase. Being forced to continue down the hall, bats nipping at his head, he almost got smashed into the floor by Lori and Leni, using one of their beds to do so. The ash-haired boy slowed down for a moment to catch his breath, but even then he didn't get a moment of peace. As Luann suddenly appeared out of her and Luna's room with a pie of spikes in her hands. Lincoln ducked instantly, that as it impacted the wall as the comedian kept laughing, even though she failed to get her prize. The boy quickly ran to his bathroom and locked the door shut. He panted and forced his air back in the lungs. All this is over a video contest? The boy jumped, dodged and pushed, and even shoved past without all of his sisters to avoid being turned into a mutilated corpse. But as he figured he would have been safe in the bathroom, one flash of lightning from outside proved him otherwise. You may have gotten this far, Lincoln, Lana said as she had her hands on a large wrench that was connected to the sink's pipe. But you can't dodge this. She pulled loosening a nut that held the ball pipe together. Water started flowing out of the pipe like a busted fire hydrant. Literally blowing, screaming Lincoln through the bathroom door, back out of the war zone of the hallway. However, the pressure was so great that he flew past him and his sisters down the stairs. The boy had a heap out of the bathroom, coughing out any water that he accidentally breathed in. Oh, Lincoln, where are you? He started to hear his sisters ask in illusion. The 11-year-old boy got to his feet and ran to the kitchen, opening up the first cabin closer to him, stepping inside. I knew they might be mad, but I don't think they would want to try and murder me over it. A stream of tears went down Lincoln's cheeks. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. A crashing sound that was made in the kitchen made him hush in his voice. Opening the door over so slightly, he could see a few of his sisters searching around, tossing their things everywhere in which way for their hunt for this prey. One of them was turned to their heads in the direction he was hiding. Quickly he closed the door. Lincoln held his breath, hoping none of them heard him or saw the door move. He heard a pair of feet walking up the cabinet before stopping. Sweat fell profusely from the boy's forehead as he thought he'd been found. Fortunately, he had heard the cabinet door above him slamming shut. It wasn't long before Lincoln heard his sisters walk out of the kitchen, grumbling something that he couldn't make out. The middle child finally released his brief breath for a moment, believing the worst is yet over. Yet fate lagged the toy with him in the distance. Not a second later, an axe splintered through his door before ripping it off its hinges. Lana took the debris off of her toy before raising it again. "Found ya!" she shouted gleefully. Lincoln screamed like a little girl before moving his head out of the way, the axe cutting off part of his hair that stood upright. Having a little choice, he kicked Lana out of the way before sprinting to another run. The other sisters noticed this and hastily threw a variety of objects at him. Lincoln quickly opened the basement door and slammed it shut, weapons, kitchen utensils, and even a chair pummeling against the frame. Now, just like time, he accidentally caused a blackout in the house that due to a tripped circuit breaker. He was still afraid of going alone. The boy didn't have Luann's camera to help him with this either, but it was either to hide in the dark, creepy basement or face the annihilation of his hands of his sisters. Slowly making his way down, Lincoln's feet caught something in circular before losing his footing. The boy grunted in pain as he tumbled down a few steps before coming to a stop. Feeling around for a moment, he found what he stepped on was a flashlight. By some miracle, it still worked. Twisting and turning, Lincoln looked down to make sure he was alone. All he saw was some dirty laundry and washer and dryer, Cliff's scratching post and litter box and the boiler. Giving a small sigh, Lincoln sat down in the small light in the middle that the device gave him. He looked to Bun Bun, his only companion at the most. "At least you'll never turn on me. But then again, you're just a plushie." "You didn't think I'd find a way in, didn't you?" Lori smirked. Giggling could be heard right from his side, and he said, picking up the light. Lincoln was shocked to see 9 of his sisters. "How did you... You gotta admit, you got some sick moves, bro. But that ain't the last trick we got," Luna added. "Well, what do you mean?" Lincoln asked, slowly backing away from his siblings. "Look in your hand," Lisa ordered. Looking down, Lincoln saw that his beloved stuffed animal. Suddenly it shook violently before jumping right out of his hands. The boy's mouth went agape as what happened next. Mechanical parts began to sprout out from the plush toy as it grew in size. Hands turned to claws, feet turned to metal paws, and Bun Bun's mouth became a mix of stuffing and metal. The most of the prompt ended up being several rows of teeth. Some extra appendages sprouted out from its back, and now a humongous plush robot reached the ceiling. A pair of red eyes soon activated before setting their sights on Lincoln. No, not you. Bun Bun, please. Not you. Lincoln's voice trembled. A mix of sadness and fear plastered on his face. "It would have been easier if you let us finish you off, Lincoln. But since you had to make it hard for us, I decided to add the conjuring plan if we were to catch you. I knew your infatuation with that toy that would lead you to carry it along with it. And now it'll be your downfall," Lisa explained, causing the other girls to laugh evilly. The mutated plush let out an unholy animalistic scream that was mixed with grinding metal before lunging towards Lincoln. The 11-year-old boy screamed in pain and pure terror as he tried to make a run for it. Sadly, he was in the robot's grasp of seconds. Gripping him tightly, Lincoln could do nothing as Bun Bun gazed emptily at him before opening its massive mouth. Lincoln then shook his head, tears running down fiercely as he didn't know what was going to happen. There was nothing he could do to prevent the outcome, and the fact that his sisters were laughing at his misery made it worse. After positioning his body at the maw, Lincoln screamed in pure terror as several rows of sharp teeth swung down on him. A loud shriek sounded throughout the certain room in Royal Woods General. It was so loud that you can even hear it in the halls, in a few adjacent rooms. Lincoln looked around frantically with his tear-stained face to find out he was back in the hospital. Breathing heavily and drenched in cold sweat, he had found the TV still on after falling asleep the other night. There was a little bit of sunlight streaming down towards the closed blinds. The boy checked his body and he was thankfully glad not to have any puncture holes. Just his arm cast, he then down on the up, but of course, as he started to calm down, until he saw Bun Bun resting on his side. Letting out a terrified scream, the boy threw the plushie across the room, where it made a barely audible proof sound. Lincoln was used to the fact that he was having nightmares about his siblings almost every time he falls asleep, but this had to be yet the worst terror yet. Since the doctors knew what he was dealing with, they gave him some sleeping pills that would have his mind blank whenever he falls asleep. However, at times they didn't seem to work, only instead making his dreams worse, as he found himself wake up until he was about ready to cry to the heavens. In fact, he had taken such pills just before he actually peed himself. Sniffling a little, he grabbed the wet wipes to clean the area before disregarding them. Lincoln then curled up on the bed, clearly haunted by the recurring nightmares of his phobia that was causing. Minutes later, Lynn Sr. walked in to see a very disturbed boy. "Not again," he muttered, pulling up a chair. The father placed a gentle hand on his son's shoulder to give him some level of comfort. "Had another nightmare, son?" The Partridge then noticed Lincoln's favorite plush toy several feet away. "Was it that bad?" The boy nodded again. Lynn Sr. was having a hard time trying to find the positive out of this. His only son was still with dealing with frequent nightmares. He had no idea. Maybe Lily could spend some more time with him, but the father wasn't so sure if it'd be completely quell to the middle child's fear. And even with the girls' good intentions, Lincoln couldn't let them be within his sight without freaking out. His best hope was at his point. It was Miss Lopez could get Lincoln through. "Well, on the bright side, you won't be in the hospital for too much longer. Doctor said you should be released within a week." "I don't want to go home," Lincoln finally spoke, his voice a whisper. "I don't want to go home, Dad. I just can't. I just can't." His voice was breaking again. "Every time I fall asleep, it gets worse." Lincoln then started to cry again. Lynn wiped a few away of his son's tears. "I know, son. That's why you're not going home with me and your mother." This caused the boy to look up at his father, clearly confused. "Given that you're still afraid of, well, we felt that it would be best if you stayed with the McBrides for a while, at least till this whole thing clears up. Trust me, son. We don't like having you around much longer than anticipated, but we're afraid you might hurt yourself if you were around the house so soon after getting out of the clinic. So, we're getting some help for you and your nightmares. It'll be a while, but we think she can help." Lynn then ruffled his son's hair as the boy digested this information. He was going straight home after the hospital released him. That was good, but he was also apparently going to get some help for his nightmares. Also good, as long as they didn't mean taking any more sleeping pills. But what his father mean that he said might hurt himself? Lincoln only knew the nightmares were giving him hell, but he didn't think he'd do any crazy, or even worse, right? While Lynn Sr. was visiting his son, Rita was driving the rest of her kids to see Dr. Lopez. Since it said that Leni would be the first up today, the blonde couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. Aside from shopping, Leni wasn't well accustomed to being herself. When she was going to new places, sure, two of her older sisters went before her, but Lori and Lisa each held a look of deep thought upon returning. It didn't help that it wouldn't discuss what they had talked about until Dr. Lopez spoke with all of them. It wasn't long before the second oldest Loud found herself walking down the hall to Miranda's office. Slowly opening the door, she poked her head in to find the psychiatrist, all sitting on her chair. "You must be Leni Loud, I'm guessing. Like, how did you know my name?" "Well, you are the second oldest child, right?" "Yeah, I think so." Leni was still standing in the doorway. "Well, come on in, Leni. I know you're probably shy about this, but we're just here to talk. Be sure to close the door behind you." Leni nodded before gently shutting the door. She then took a seat on the opposite side of her therapist, fiddling with her shades a little. Now, Leni, from what I've heard, it can be hard for you to understand or pay attention at times. So I'm going to explain this to you very carefully. Miranda started. Okay, Leni replied, before a thought came to her. Wait, hold on, I gotta take something first. She then looked at the small bottle of water out for her long hair in a small case. Miranda got a little confused when Leni opened the bottle to reveal a few pills. She popped them into her mouth, grimacing at the taste, before taking a drink to make it go down easier. Both sat in silence for a few moments before Leni finally spoke. Okay, I totes can focus clear now. What was that you took? Oh, those were just some pills my parents keep putting in my smoothies. I think I don't notice them doing it, but I totes do. As far as I know, these pills will help me stay focused for a few hours. So Leni is more aware of her condition than previously thought, unknown if she actually knows the type of disability she has. The psychiatrist thought as she jotted down this. Okay then, and to not waste any time, what we're about to discuss is just your thoughts of the whole situation your family's in. Now, as long as you use this information on your own, but if you wish to keep it private, I won't rely on it to anyone else, okay? Leni nodded. So, Leni, how do you feel? Well, it's a little drafty here and there, but I do like your office. I also really totally love your scarf. It looks cute on you, but now I'm not sure if I have the right wardrobe for this to fit this setting. Leni finished, before she looked at her own dress. No. I mean, how do you feel about the current situation your family's in? Oh, well, it's like the worst thing I've ever seen. It first started off with me and Lori fighting over a dress. So what if I happened to buy the same dress one as her? I wasn't gonna take it back. So me and her stopped talking for each other for a while. When Linky tried to help and Leni paused, shifting, feeling uneasy. He ended up making things worse for us. How so? Well, I know he just wanted to help, and I would totally help him a lot in these situations. But that day, well, I would have taken his advice if he didn't mention that Lori and I washed it out in blue, and parts where she made fun of me behind my back because of the fact my skin can't tan. The blonde frowned. Miranda flipped back a few pages on her book. I see. Your older sister had mentioned this before. Anything else? After that, our fighting got worse. Then our sister started fighting after me and Lori told them our sides of the story. But then, at some point we got into an erupting volcano and everyone was fighting. By the time it was over, we all made up, once Linky was gone for the night. Leni started to sniffle a bit. I'm sorry, but just can't talk about what happened next. I can't even believe in what happened after that. The poor girl was at the verge of breaking down. Don't worry, Leni. This is all on you. If you don't wish to talk about certain instances, we won't, Miranda said, handing her a box of tissues. Leni then took them with her thanks before wiping her face clean. I just can't believe I got so angry at poor Linky. I hardly get mad at my brother. I mean, I have a few times, but not all the time. And I'm usually very nice to all my sisters, though me and Lori get into arguments a lot. Is your relationship with Lori somewhat odd? Odd as in, well, how often do you both fight? Well, quite a lot, but don't get me wrong, we're still close. We share the same room after all. Sometimes she could be bossy and selfish, but the time she has us doing her chores so she could take us for rides, that's why my younger sisters and brother helped me train me for my next driving test. Although I really think I should have taken my pills then, and then she would have really taken advantage of my dumb moments at times. But that was because I'm not on my medication all the time. Interesting, Miranda noted. Now, you've mentioned your pills are quite frequently now, and it seems you have taken them on a regular basis. Why is that? Well, I don't like the taste for one, plus it gives me a super headache when it stops working. Along with the fact that I usually forget to take them regularly. My parents put them in my smoothies. I don't actually swallow them, but they actually end up being thrown out. I know my sisters can get mad at me for not being smart, but there is more in my head than just in the air. I swear, even Lisa said I have a brain there. Leni then folded her arms. I may not show it much, but it hurts, you know. It's even that most of the family treats you like a baby or gets mad at you for not following simple instructions. I don't know what's making me forget stuff constantly. I really don't. I've had shoes missing, clothes missing, such as I like, keep forgetting where I put the pill case. The blonde gave a small sigh. I still can remember some of my idiot moments. Like the time I thought Lily's crib was a prison, the fact I was blind and my eyes were closed the whole time, or there was just a solar eclipse because my shades were down, or the time I thought our kitchen was in the mall and was like so mad at Luann for that prank. And it's just a few examples. I could go on all about my day about my dumb moments, but some miracle, I found my pills in my dresser last night. If I hadn't, we likely wouldn't be having this conversation. Sad to see a nice girl like her to have suffered so much, the doctor noted. If there's one thing that would change, what would that be? Leni shuffled a little in her seat. I want my family to stop treating me like I'm an older Lily. I mean, I know they make stuff simpler for my sake, but I'm 16. I'm not a child anymore. Sure, I could be tricked quite easily at times, but it hurts when they use that against me. Like, even when I'm being a bit dumb or still smart on certain things. Such as, well, I'm totally into fashion and design. I can make almost every piece of fabric of clothing. Like a couple of times I turn Christmas decorations into nice dresses, although Mom doesn't really like it when I do that. But the reason why I do it is because it's the thing I have best in understanding of what helps me keep a wider focus on things. And when I'm not taking my pills, I once actually made a bed frame for Lori when she told me to make her bed. So wait, so you actually designed a newer frame when she wanted for you to organize her sheets? Leni nodded. I also picked locks to make best smoothies. Miranda wrote this down. Well, if you say it's true, then you might have a decent career in creative designer, Leni. Really? The doctor blind smiled. The doctor nodded. Now, given what we discussed, the insecurities about being viewed as an idiot in your family, as harsh as it sounds, the easiest way to change this is by remembering to take your medication. Normally, I would keep this closed, but since you are aware that your parents are doing so, you'll have to tell them what they've been slipping meds into your drinks. However, in order to not be viewed as the dumb one, I would suggest taking your medication more often. If you start to forget, remind yourself that you have a note out to convince you to take it again in the future. So, also you should remember when only lasts a few hours. Mind if I see your case? Leni pulled out a small case out and handed it to the doctor. Miranda took one of the pills and examined it carefully. Little did she know, the Hispanic woman has a minor in medicine as well, just in case a psychology job didn't work out. These are decent, but for you I think a stronger stimulant would be more beneficial. A stim what? Well, basically something that would increase certain part of your brain to help you focus much better. Preferably one that gives you less side effects. Oh, Leni took the case back. But what can I do to help Lincoln? He's completely afraid of me and my sisters now, and I haven't, and I haven't, and he hasn't been completely, and I haven't even been mean to him. That is something that's yet to be determined. I'm sorry, Leni, but until I can speak with your brother myself, I don't know how you can help him. Okay, Leni replied sadly, but what do I do now? Don't worry, my dear. When that time comes, we'll have everyone in the room and you guys can tell each other your deepest thoughts. You are free to leave, but... Miranda took a pause to look over her notes. Could you please ask Luann to come in? I have 2 instances where she's done some rather outlandish pranks, and I like to discuss them with her.